Okay, horror fans, you're gonna want to strap in for this one, as today we are deep diving into the horror slasher of the year. Dare I say it? Yep, I'm gonna say it. A Clown in a Cornfield. From the twisted brain of director Eli Craig, best known for cult horror comedies like Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, A Clown in a Cornfield brings blood, banjos, and big shoes to the slasher genre. The film is based on the story from the 2020 Bram Stoker award-winning novel by Adam Cesare, which took the killer clown trope, slammed it into small-town America, and said, "This is what happens when small-town rage puts on face paint and logs into Facebook." Inspired by classic 80s slashers, but with a Gen Z versus Boomers twist, the movie isn't just about jump scares and gore. It's a stab, literally, at the culture war, generational angst, and what happens when a town decides murder is the answer to teenage TikTok dancing. So now that the blood's been spilled and the final girl's out of the cornfield, let's break down that ending, the film's lore, and how it sets up a sequel that might be even more bonkers. So, before we get into the ending, let's rewind a little bit to how we actually got to a mob of killer clowns wiping out a group of teenagers. Clown in a Cornfield kicks off with Quinn and her dad moving to the dying town of Kettle Springs, Missouri, where the biggest drama used to be over corn syrup, until someone decided murder was a better hobby. The town's once thriving syrup factory went up in flames, and with it, any sense of community. Now the adults hate the teens hate the adults, and everyone's one passive-aggressive comment away from snapping. Quinn falls in with the town's so-called troublemakers, but things spiral fast when a prank at the Founders Day parade ends with one of them turning up dead. That's when someone in a Frendo the Clown costume, the town's creepy mascot, because of course it is, starts hunting them down, slasher style. And then it goes full carnage mode during a party in the middle of nowhere, because teenagers in horror movies never learn. Ginger stumbles out of the cornfield screaming with an arrow in her gut, and the group receives a literal severed head as a party favor. Enter the army of killer clowns. Okay, so after a whole lot of 80s inspired slasher deaths, it brings us to the final climax of the movie. Inside the abandoned Baypen factory, the killers remove their masks, revealing the true identity of these psychos in true Scooby-Doo style. Quinn recognizes the Frendos as Sheriff Dunn, teacher Mr. Vern, diner waitress Trudy, and store owner Otis as the main culprits. Each explains that they hated Quinn's group for upsetting Kettle Springs' old ways. Mayor Arthur Hill, Cole's father, appears as the ringleader. He admits he burned down the factory and confesses his plan to stage a murder-suicide, killing his son and Quinn to save his reputation. We also discover the reason why Cole pied off Quinn's advances earlier in the movie, as Cole and Rust are revealed to have been romantically involved. A twist that explains Arthur's vendetta and is only exposed as Rust comes to Cole's rescue. At that moment, Glenn crashes his car through the factory wall, mowing down Trudy and Otis. In the chaos, Quinn breaks free. She electrocutes Sheriff Dunn with a cattle prod as Rust bursts in and frees Cole. Outside, Quinn leaps into her car and drives over Mr. Vern, while Arthur Hill escapes into the night. The film epilogue takes place 1 year later. Glenn is campaigning for mayor, and Quinn is leaving for college. As Quinn drives away, she discovers a Baypen-themed music box hidden in the back seat, implying the evil Frendo legacy might not be over. Cue the Frendo sequel. Elon Musk, Arthur Hill, might not hog the screen, but don't be fooled. He's the real puppet master behind Clown in a Cornfield. While the other Frendos are busy getting their heads caved in, Arthur's pulling the strings from the sidelines like some twisted small-town Palpatine. Do it! And unlike the rest of the clown crew, he actually survives. Clearly not finished with what he started. And then there's that final shot. Subtle? Absolutely not. It's a calling card, a message, and Arthur's definitely the one sending it. As one of the main architects behind the massacre, he's not your run-of-the-mill slasher villain. He's got power, money, and the kind of warped conviction that comes from thinking you're saving the town. Now, in terms of how this all compares to the book, the film doesn't throw the source material in the bin, but it does rewire a few key parts. The core beats are still there. Creepy clowns, generational fury, and a high kill body count, but when it comes to the ending, things line up pretty closely. Sure, the book pushes harder on the political stuff, especially with Sheriff Dunn, but the final result is familiar. In the movie, Arthur flops his mission to frame his own son for the killings, top marks for parenting, and scurries off into the night. In the book, Arthur's plan is broader, more culty and secret society way than full-on slasher dad. But yep, he still slips away while Quinn, her dad, Rust, and Cole scrape through as the final survivors. Where the biggest differences show up is in the supporting cast. Characters like Janet and Ronnie, who barely get time to exhale in the book, actually feel more fleshed out in the film. Not massively, but enough that they're more than just bloody set dressing. It's a fair trade-off for a film adaptation. Quicker pacing, less narrative clutter, and a tighter runtime. That said, one of the more noticeable shifts is how the Frendos are handled. In the novel, the horror hits harder because the violence isn't coming from a tidy cult or cartoonish killers. It's a quiet, coordinated movement with a huge chunk of the town's adults either directly involved or complicit. Some of them literally go back to their day jobs afterward. It's grim. The film pares this down to a more traditional slasher group, a clown army. And honestly, for some viewers, that works better. It's a little easier to believe than the idea of half the town putting on clown masks and going full purge mode. But it does come at a cost. That lingering dread of how deep does this go isn't as strong. The movie even adds a "this is tradition" excuse to explain it, which, depending on your taste, either adds folklore or just kind of deflates the whole setup. Still, we get it. It's the nature of adaptations. Messy layers get trimmed down, and while the book might cut deeper, the movie still slices just fine. We're not mad about it.
You fucking psycho!
So where does the Clown in a Cornfield franchise go from here? Arthur Hill surviving isn't just a sequel hook. It's practically a giant neon sign flashing "Frendo will return." That jack-in-the-box Quinn finds in her car. That's not a prank, that's a threat. And if a second film leans back into the book's more overt social commentary, there's a clear path forward. Frendo could evolve from a small-town scare tactic into something way darker. A full-on movement, a cult, a mask for mass hysteria, channeling every drop of rural rage into blood-soaked retribution. The sequel novel Clown in a Cornfield 2, Frendo Lives, already maps out what the next chapter could look like. Quinn, now in college and just trying to live a normal life, finds herself targeted again, not just by more Frendos, but by a deranged online conspiracy mob that denies the massacre ever happened. Welcome to YouTube's comment section. When a clown attacks her at a frat party, and another goes after her dad back in Kettle Springs at the exact same time, leaving her with no choice but to go back to the cornfields. With Arthur still out there, pulling strings and soaking in his twisted ideology, the next film could easily go bigger, bloodier, and way more unhinged. But hey, there's always the chance the filmmakers swerve completely away from the books and go full prequel mode instead. Imagine a straight up 80s slasher throwback soaked in neon and synth where Frendo gets his bloody origin story. Honestly, I'd eat that up with a rusty pitchfork. So, what would you rather see? A sequel that sticks to the chaos of the books? Or a fresh, blood-soaked prequel that goes full retro slasher? Drop your twisted takes in the comments. Before I vanish back into the corn, it's time for our official, oddly horrific rating of Clown in a Cornfield. Drum roll, please. So, I had a bloody good time with this one. It's quick-paced, doesn't overstay its welcome, and still leaves the door wide open for more mayhem. It's got slapstick kills, creepy vibes, and the 80s horror feel that I love, so I'm giving it a solid But of course I want to hear from you. Let me know your rating of Clown in a Cornfield in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to Oddly Horrific for all things horror. I'll see you in the next one.